Hey everyone, my name is Artie, and today I'll be talking to you about the poem that is meaningful to me. But before I talk about the poem, I would like to say a little bit about myself, about my background, and about where I come from. So I was born in Kazakhstan. I'm 21 years old, and ever since my childhood, my parents and I had to move from place to place. And this is because of my mother's work, my mother's job. She works as an expat in an international company, and every 3 or 4 years she would get a contract. And as a result, we have to move to a different place. So most of my life I had a nomadic style of life. I always considered myself a nomad, traveling from one place to another, never having a home. And as a result, I've moved 7 times. I've been to 5 countries, and I've lived in 5 countries. I've met so many people, and I'm not planning to stop. I want to travel and I want to explore the world while I can. With that said, the poem that I chose for this project is called "The Road Not Taken" by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler. Long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So, why is this poem meaningful to me? As I mentioned before, I moved a lot, and my parents, because I was a child, I couldn't make decisions on my own yet. My parents looked at decisions carefully, and they were thinking of each step and where we have to move and how it's going to be for us as a family, as individuals. And I grew up with that. I inherited it from them, and therefore nowadays I make decisions carefully. And to me, that poem represents a metaphor, a fork on the road, where you have two choices and you have to choose either one way or the other. And if you choose one road, it will completely change your life. It will completely change the sequence of your lifetime, and you'll meet other people and you move to different places. Whereas if you choose the second road, you will have a completely different life. And because I'm a person who overthinks and worries a lot, therefore I worry whether I make the right choice in life. And in the third stanza, it says, "Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back." If I eventually make a choice, I always look back and I like to imagine how my life would have turned out. Therefore, these lines speak to me. I constantly think how my life would have turned out if I made this choice. And recently, one of the recent examples in my life that I can think of is my study abroad that I did last semester in fall of 2018. I study at Webster Leiden campus. However, I spontaneously decided to study in Webster Vienna for fall 2018. And I applied 2 months after the deadline. They allowed me to do it, so I said, you know what, let's do it. If the university offers this opportunity, I will take it. So I took the road and I decided to study in Vienna. And I was worried, I was nervous, I was asking myself, how is it going to be for me? How is it going to turn out? Am I gonna find good friends? Am I gonna spend my time alone? If it's gonna be a good time for me and a good experience. And fortunately enough, while studying abroad in Vienna, I ended up meeting a girl. And here's the picture of us. She's from St. Louis, and she also did a study abroad in Vienna campus. And right now we're doing long distance. We're in a long distance relationship, and we took this picture when I was visiting her in St. Louis in winter break in December and January. So December 2018, January 2019. Sorry about it. But what I'm trying to say is that I always look back and I think, what would happen if I never decided to study in Vienna? What would happen if I just stayed in Leiden and I would never take this opportunity that the university offered or offers? What would happen if I never met her? Or what would happen if, what would happen if I just didn't spontaneously decide to submit an application to study abroad? And one last thing that speaks most to me, and I always hear this from close people of mine, from my family members, especially from my grandparents. They always say, when they tell their stories, they always say, "Oh, I wonder how my life would have turned out if I made this decision when I was your age." And that made me think. And that's why the last stanza in this poem speaks to me the most. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And I imagine myself, when I'm older, I look back at my life and I'll think, how did I end up here? Not in a bad way, in a good way. And what would happen if I made a different decision at this point of life? And therefore this poem speaks to me and that's why it's meaningful to me.